This material has been reproduced and communicated to you by or on behalf of the Australian National University in accordance with Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. The material in this communication may be subject to copyright under the Act. Any further reproduction or communication of this material by you must be consistent with the provisions of the Act. Do not reproduce this material. Do not remove this notice.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to lecture 4. It's week 4, time is running. So the attendance is decreasing to the lecture. I hope it's because of the weather. So today is the 4th lecture, week 4, lecture 4. We are starting with a new theme of another dimension of responsible innovation. But before that, I want to remind you to keep an eye on what announcements. Like the last week was really, I have received so many emails in professional practice, other emails to my personal email, and another notifications on Water on the Course forum. So the only way to reply and let all the students know is by sending an announcement. I might miss replying to one of you, but I would also consider replying to all the questions in one announcement. So if you have asked a question, I'll send an announcement and let the other know about like one of the updates. So if I miss to reply to your email, look at the announcements. I always make sure that I reply to every single email. Okay, so the submission of the reflective piece 1 is today. And we had so many problems with the submission. I'll talk about it. Please make sure to submit today before 12. So I have received emails saying that you couldn't submit because of submission error, and we've contacted Water Services, tried to resolve the problem, and what we did is basically I deleted that link. So here's an important thing to consider. I deleted the old link, created another link. So whoever submitted to the previous link, I think there is one student who submitted using the old link. Please consider resubmission. So now you can submit to the new link, which is called new link submission reflective piece 1. And that's all. It should be working now. I have checked today morning the submissions. It looks like it's working without any issues now, so you should be able to submit. Please make sure to resubmit if you have submitted to the previous link. And make sure it's generating the similarity report. One of the questions that I received from students, can I upload and then, delete it and upload again? That's fine, but please make sure before the due date. Okay, so I also have received so many emails from the students saying, in the previous lecture, in case study 1, we didn't talk about leadership and membership. I didn't hear it in the lecture. It wasn't mentioned, it wasn't given, and just like they couldn't know where was that component in the case study. But Dr. Hassan clearly discussed the role of leadership and membership in organizing and dealing with AI. But that was given indirectly, integrated with the case study. So just to give you an idea, and just to acknowledge, this slide is written by Janssen, so he helped me to identify where are the examples that was given by Ehsan in the case study, where he talked about leadership and membership. So he talked about the AI for Good Global Summit is teamwork at macro level. And also he mentioned some of the other characters, like have a clear mission and purpose, have a vision and well-defined goals, diversity of skills and perspectives. He talked about establishing rules, responsibilities, and teams, design a balanced participation. That was kind of integrated in each slide. And also he talked about maintaining a collaborative communication to have a sustainable development. He talked about trust, utilize effective decision-making process, problem-solving, use function, conflict resolution process, so many other things. So if you still, it's not gonna be given directly. What I wanted to say, we're not giving everything direct to the students during the case study without giving you the chance to critically think about the concepts and how are these concepts that are aligned with responsible innovation. Okay. But considering your requests, considering the short time, considering the short notice, and because to be transparent, we are here talking about being responsible, so we are not deducting any marks for the leadership component for this assessment. So I have decided not to consider it because I want to be fair with the students, and for the limited time during the weekend, I couldn't reply to the students. And then with the submission today, we are not deducting any marks for that component, just for reflective piece 1, but we are considering this component in reflective piece 2. Okay. That means we will allocate more weight to other sections, which is kind of the analysis and reflection, personal insights and the analysis. These are the two sections will have more weight. Okay, I've already put an announcement on Wattle that I'm not going to consider this component for this assessment. Okay. And I also have received kind of different emails asking about what is the theme of the lecture and what was the case study. So last lecture was about sustainability, but the case study was specifically talking about AI in the context of responsible innovation and looking at it from the sustainability dimension. So And whatever the tutors are discussing in the tutorials, it could be different. It shouldn't be the same as the case study. The case study aligns with the lecture theme and also the case studies that you are discussed during the tutorials, but it could be different. That's why I don't want any confusion here. The case studies in the tutorial, it's kind of allowing you to understand more how to analyze and write your assessment. But it could be anything other than the case study that we discussed here. Okay, I also have received many emails talking about, should I consider the guidelines in stated or the structure stated in the course guide, or I should consider the sample reflective piece 1 that comes under resources. Just to let you know, the resources is only for you to learn more, let you know how to start writing reflective piece 1, but it's not what we're considering for the marking. For marking the assessment, we are only following the structure that we explained in the course guide. The tutors would, when marking, they will go specifically with the sections clearly. And I also, you don't need to put subheadings, that's fine, but follow the structure. That's easier for you and us, and to make sure that we are fair with the marking, we are for the structure. And also the word limit is counted excluding the references, which is okay. One last thing about the assessments. So for the similarity, when you upload to Turnitin, you will see the similarity. If it's more than 15%, we are not marking that report. So please consider referencing, paraphrasing before the final submission, because we are not marking any assessment more than 15%, and probably you'll be contacted by your tutor or by me and let you know if you can resubmit, or I'm not sure what are the options. And also, we are not marking any report that's written by ChatGPT. Here, use ChatGPT to refine your assessment. Let us know how you have used it. So just let us know. I've used it to correct grammar, refine my assessment, refine the English, but not to write the whole assessment, and that would be obvious for us. So that's also, we are not marking any report that's generated by ChatGPT. There is no AI detection here, but it's, as I told you in the first lecture, when you're using very complicated language and out of the context, it could be ChatGPT. That's all about similarity. And please don't swap your tutorials. If you are allocated in one of the tutorials, yes?
When we put in a Turnitin when we submit,
yeah.
So when the report comes, it shows with the references the total plagiarism.
Yes.
On the submission page, it still shows the value with the references. So
yeah, that was one of the questions. So exclude the references and see the similarity. And that's what will we... Yes. Remove the references, because with the references, it's going to be 30 or 35 sometimes. So remove the references, look at your similarity report. You had the chance to upload more than one time, I think it's 3 times. So use this advantage. Okay, is there any question regarding the guidelines of the assessments? Coming back to the tutorials, please, if you are allocated in one of the tutorials, keep going to your tutorial. Do not swap with other tutorial. We have very limited spaces in the rooms. Every student has to have a seat, and it's our responsibility to provide you, it's our responsibility to make sure that you have a seat. So please do not swap tutorials. And if you have to do so, please discuss it with me 1 week before. All right. And just take away from lecture 3, which was Dr. Ihsan's lecture, he came to us and discussed a very interesting topic, AI. And that connects with the dimensions of responsible innovation. He talked about AI, but under the context of sustainability, which is one of the dimensions of responsible innovation. And I think Dr. Ihsan's lecture challenging us to critically think about the consequences of AI. It could be a very effective tool for sustainable development, but it also can be a potential risk if it's not handled responsibly. And as he said, AI can lead to unintended consequences, especially in the context of sustainability. Okay, well, the agenda for today is we are going to discuss reflective piece 2, case study 2, and then firstly we're discussing the lecture's theme, which is transparency, and then the case study, and then you will be submitting reflective piece 2. Okay, so lecture theme for today is transparency and safety, which is another dimension of responsible innovation. Okay, so let us first start with definitions. It's always good to start with simple definitions. Okay, so transparency refers to the openness of clarity, sharing information about the process, decisions, outcomes, analyze the problems, and also it's providing whoever is affected stakeholders with accessible information that they can use that will form kind of trust and accountability. This is a simple definition, but in this lecture I will kind of go from the general to more specific to the case study. It's kind of structured. So, what is safety then? Safety refers to the measures and practices put in place to prevent harm and ensure well-being individuals. This, we all know that. Identifying potential risk, implementing controls to mitigate them, and sticking to safety standards, regulations, and best practices. This is very clear. But we want to understand here, we want to know more about transparency and safety from the lens of responsible innovation. So it could be disclosure, providing clear and comprehensive information about the goals, methods, results of innovative projects. Accountability, be responsible for your action and for your decisions, and also engage the stakeholder. And if we wanted to define safety from the lens of, or through the lens of responsible innovation, it could be risk assessment, identifying and evaluating potential risk. And that comes with innovations and like try to implement strategies to overcome these risks. And also it could be designing systems and processes with built-in safeguards to prevent accidents. Continuous improvement, which is a very important part of responsible innovation. So let's integrate back these concepts. What's the relation between transparency and safety? Why are we discussing them in one lecture? So transparency in responsible innovation, if we want to talk about responsible innovation, it demands that organizations be transparent about their safety practices, one of the things, and risk management strategies as well. So what's the relation with safety, with transparency? Safety is not an isolated component, but it's integrated with transparency because you need to communicate the risk, make them understand the consequences, the impacts, to let them decide better. Okay, we'll watch some short videos, transparency, safety. What is oversharing, which is a very important concept, and oversharing will be one of the concepts that we'll discuss in the case study. So we didn't come to this case study yet. Let us watch these videos. I hope it's gonna work. Okay.
Transparency is one of the most powerful ways for companies and managers to up their game. Give me a minute. The more information your employees have, the more thoughtful the decisions they'll make. Meaning you shouldn't keep your employees in the dark. That was oddly very well timed. When everybody on your team has access to the important data and a clear overview of where the company's actually headed, they can work together autonomously, achieve better results, and reach their goals faster. They might even feel a bit more motivated. Transparency works like magic. It creates trust between employees and bosses alike. Here at Monday.com, we keep company data and metrics visible everywhere. Just walk around the office, there's screens everywhere you turn. But not every company is like that. Many leaders actually shudder at the word transparency because they see information as a source of power that they don't want to give up. Don't be that guy. On the other hand, don't overshare either. No one wants to know about that.
Okay, let's look at the second one.
Today, I want to simplify a buzzword that's been going around a lot recently. WorkOS. Give me a minute. Take this phone. We all use different apps and widgets for different purposes, but all phones have an OS, an operating system. It's basically designed to run everything that's on your phone. A WorkOS is the same, an operating system, but just for work. It's basically a flexible platform that can fit the specific needs of any organization. Today, I want to simplify a buzzword that's been going around a lot recently. WorkOS.
It looks like the link is not correct. Let me try. Okay, I'll share. It should be sharing the proper, sorry, it's correct for the first video, but for the, not for the second. I'll talk about these concepts in my slides. Okay. Okay. So as I said, in this lecture, I'm gonna go from general to more specific, reaching to it like until I discuss the case study. So from the lens of responsible innovation, I want to redefine transparency and safety, because this is what we'll be using to reflect in reflective piece 2. So from the responsible innovation perspective, transparency is important for building trust, ensuring ethical practices, disclosing information about the innovation process, goals, methods, outcomes, consequences, and impacts. And safety, it requires a proactive approach to risk management. And remember, we discussed what is the difference between solving the problem when it comes and having the measures to avoid the problem before it happens. And that's what we mean by responsible innovation. It's a huge difference between the two cases, and implementing preventive measures and regularly and to prevent future problems, predict the problems, the unintended consequences. Okay, now it's the case study for today. It's going to be transparency and safety in healthcare. So it's specifically discussing how we are applying this dimension in the healthcare system. And this is going to be the topic for reflective piece 2. So have you ever considered the emergency long waiting times? Why is it happening? Have you ever had that question? No? So why it is happening? Is it happening because they are understaffed, unprofessional, they want you to wait? Or is it happening for a reason that they are following safety measures? They need to make sure that you are well informed about the procedure before allocating you to a doctor. What do you think about that? So I'll leave that question. I'll go to the case study and we'll come back to this question. Okay, now be more specific, and I want to go in more like specific and define transparency and safety in healthcare. So we have defined them in general, and then in responsible innovation, what it means to be transparent and safe in healthcare system. Okay, so it means to practice being open and honest with patients, staff, and public about medical procedure, outcomes, and errors. It's a collective effort. Everyone has a responsibility of that. Discuss why transparency is essential for building trust between patients, healthcare providers, and to improve patient outcome. Okay. As Hassan discussed in the case study of AI, we think that we are doing it right, but we are not. Like the case in AI and the unintended consequences that we are facing till now because we didn't expect the problem or we didn't apply it in the proper way. So the critical issue in healthcare today is illusion of transparency. We are saying and thinking that we are applying transparency, but we are not. And the system appears, and that's obvious when you look at the systems failing to provide true clarity, and it's affecting the patient trust and safety, and we can give numbers to prove that. So it's always good to see numbers, look at the statistics, and to understand what's happening to understand the significance of the problem. So here, medical errors as a leading cause of death. Medical errors are estimated to be the third leading cause of death in the US, resulting in over 250,000 deaths annually, which is disaster. Disclosure of errors, a study published in GMA found that only 35% of medical errors are disclosed to patients, leaving many patients unaware of critical information regarding their care. So not everything is disclosed. Patient perception of transparency is different. Patients think that hospitals are not transparent, 70% of them. And that's based on the experience. More statistics proving the lack of transparency in healthcare. The Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality report that 1 in 10 adverse events in healthcare is never reported or documented. They don't talk about it, and then leading to many issues and unaddressed risks. And also financial impact of lack transparency. And a 2019 study in the New England Journal of Medicine found that hospitals with poor transparency practices face 30% higher malpractice costs compared to the ones who are practicing transparency in the proper way. And now let us look at more numbers related to the lack of safety in the healthcare system. So this is kind of stating the problem. What is the problem? Once you see the numbers, you see these kind of incidents, you realize the problem, sorry. So, related to safety, the CDC estimates that approximately 1 in 31 hospital patients has a healthcare-associated infection on any given day, and that comes to 1 million per year. A 2017 report from the American College of Surgeons found that approximately 20% of surgeries result in complications due to not following the safety protocols, and that's not reported. So there is a problem. More statistics. I leave these statistics to you if you want to use it in your, just more. I'm not going to go through these ones. So stating the problem, seeing these numbers, it's really obvious when healthcare goes wrong, it's time to transparency, to look what we are doing wrong related to transparency in healthcare. And always remember, just like any tool, transparency is like any tool. It can be used to create benefit and also to create harm. Just like AI, like anything. Life is not perfect. So you can use it in both ways. And that's why we need a very structured approach to implement it. And, okay, it should be applied in a disciplined way, yes?
I have a doubt. When you say transparency in the medical aspect, do you mean that supposedly in a very critical situation, somebody has undergone an accident and the doctors know that his chance of surviving is very low?
Yeah.
But there is a chance of surviving. So do you mean by transparency, like you tell the family that he is going to die? Because that's going to be like the end of the thing for the family? Or do you be a bit hiding and say that, yeah, there is hope? Although the doctors know that there is a very less chance. So when you say transparency, what do you mean exactly?
So the transparency here in healthcare is more about when the patient has to do one decision, should I do this surgery? Should I go for that technology or that one? Should I take this injection or not? That should be, we should be transparent, letting him the implications and outcomes to make decision. But in this case, he can't make any decision. So it's kind of, it's different. The transparency is about.
Because if you say that if the doctor knows due to his large experience.
Yeah, he can't tell him that you can, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna talk in the coming slide about what to share. It's not about the quantity. So we are going to talk about that point, but basically yes. But I would say transparency is more letting the patient know what are the outcomes to decide, to have informed decisions. But I'm going to talk about what to share and oversharing. I'm sorry that video didn't work. I'm going to post another link for that one. Okay. Okay, then, if we are not doing really in the proper way, what is transparency in healthcare system then? So it's really the context or the definition of transparency in healthcare is really depending on the context, the country, the care settings in that country, or it's really depending on the context. That's why we don't have really a very specific definition for transparency in healthcare. But we have a very clear dimensions of health system transparency. They are stated. Following them would lead to better improvement in implementing transparency. So quality of healthcare is the first one. Transparency, provide a level performance, measure especially the quality of outcome and processes. Are you sharing the outcomes? Patient experience? Of course, based on patient experience, they will give kind of evaluation for the transparency dimension. Price and payments transparency. Some of the hospitals, they are just publishing prices, but when it comes to the payments, you pay much more, which is really not transparent. This is not good. And this is one of the failures that we have in our systems. It was addressed in US and Denmark as guess, but still it is a problem. When you come to pay, you pay much more than what you have read on the website. They are not providing customized prices, and that's one of the problems that needs to be addressed when you need to apply transparency, governance, and also personal healthcare data access workshops. You have to make sure that the patient data is communicated properly. But I'm going to come to that, not to share anything and everything. It's not about the quantity. Communication of healthcare data presented, make it understandable by the users or whoever is affected. Okay, just to redefine it again. Another definition for transparency and would be the last definition. Okay, a health system that provides accessible, reliable, useful, up-to-date information, not all the information that might be really good and interesting for the stakeholders and important for them to gain understanding, help them to make informed decision and improve the patient experience. This is what we call transparent healthcare system. And why it is important? It is important for two main points. Patient trust. You need to have this kind of transparency ensures patients are fully informed about their care. Alternative, what are options? What are the options that I have? And just to make decision, and also accountability. Everyone is responsible, whether it was the doctor or the nurse, everyone in the healthcare system is responsible for their decisions, and they're responsible for the outcome. And this is the main thing to understand about responsible innovation, to be accountable. Okay, so I would say the most important thing that I'm discussing here in the case study is to let the patient make informed decisions. So if we are transparent with the patient, he can take informed decision if he had a surgery or if he have different technologies in one of the to have that surgery. Knowing the options, the outcomes, the impact, and the success, the prices, would let that patient decide better and see what are the options. This is what I mean by informed decision making. Okay, one thing. Transparency is not about sharing everything. It's not about, I'm sharing all the information, I'm transparent, tick the box, and that's it. No. Transparency can become a distraction if we don't really know what to share or what not to share. And the main three things is to share what matter the patient. Share what matter the patient. And why do you think we shouldn't share everything? I want to hear from you. Why? It's good to share more information, right? But not in the case of transparency in healthcare. Why? Yes?
As I'm not sure his name mentioned,
yeah.
It can cause undue worry for the relatives of patients, maybe the...
Yes, it's unimportant in this case, yes. Yes, it's not going to help in taking any decision, right? Yeah. Any more thoughts? Do you want to say something? Yes.
Because patients are not medical experts, so the information might mislead them. They don't know the main percentage knowledge, but they might think that it's good, but actually it's not.
I'll come to that point. This is the mentality of us as engineers and computer scientists. I'll come to that, but that's an interesting point. So do you think they shouldn't be informed about the whole process because they are not expert and the doctors are experts? Is this your point?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to talk about that at the end of the lecture. More. Okay. When we need to generate more information, think about it, we need a lot of resources, significant number of resources to generate a lot of data to share it with the patients. So the first thing we should think about is it's a distraction if it's not targeted carefully. Why? Because when you want to generate a lot of data, unwanted data, it's waste of resources, simply. And we don't want that. This is not about responsible innovation. Responsible innovation is really something, it's kind of holistic thinking. You think about every single thing from different angles and try to integrate all of them together. So it's waste of resources. That's one thing. And we have to have the power to identify what to share and what not to share. Is it important for that patient to have this information to come with better decisions? But will it be important if I share this information or not? Or it's just a waste of time and resources, distraction. And this is what we don't want in transparency. And sometimes the organizations, private hospitals, small hospitals, they are focusing more on the small things, little things, and forget about the big picture. Why? Because they want to tick the box, we are transparent, following the guidelines, that's it. And this is not the case. Responsive innovation is not about that. Okay. So as I said, it's a distraction because I'm wasting resources, not sharing what is important. I've already written this information here to make sure that you have record of all what we are saying in the lecture. So this slide is already discussed. And that brings us to the conclusion of share what matters. And it's the responsibility of everyone who's working in the healthcare system to know what to share and what not to share. Okay, and one of the quotes that really concludes whatever we said in the previous two slides, publishing a plethora of ideas is time-consuming, waste of resources, and doesn't add to real transparency. So there's something called transparency and real transparency, and that's what I'm going to talk about. In fact, it can even undermine it. Many countries end up not seeing the wood for the trees. So it is important to think about the value and true meaning of data, not just the quantity. Okay. As I said, sharing a lot of information, unwanted information, focusing on the little but not in the most important significant problems would look like pretending, because this is what's happening in some of the organizations. Why do we have this high number of mortality deaths? Why? It's because we are pretending to be transparent, but we are not communicating properly. We are not transparent. We are just pretending by ticking the box, sharing unwanted data. And that's why there are many concerns now to set guidelines for transparency in healthcare. And it continues to be a problem. Okay, and that creates kind of illusion, like I'm transparent. Are you feeling headache looking to that image? No? And we should understand the difference between real transparency and something else. Transparency, pretending transparency. And this is the main focus of reflective piece 2. How am I applying it makes a difference. Once I understand what responsible innovation means, I'm going to apply it in a different way. I have different pathways to be transparent, real transparency. Okay. Do you want break or no? Still, we have to. Oh, sorry. Okay. Superficial transparency, which is just a token, check a box, and that's what we mean by this is not real transparency. This is what is the main reason for having all of these numbers of tests, because we are not really practicing it in a responsible way. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to give you more examples. What we can call this kind of transparency shallow. Despite the efforts, the healthcare system transparency practices have remained shallow, failing to address deeper issues of accountability and trust. And that's why it's not real transparency. Surface level, the new transparency policies appeared promising, but turned out to be surface level, only addressing non-important aspects without talking about the significant problems. And also, just to tick the box, I'm transparent, following the guidelines, that's it. And might be because, like cosmetics, it's just creating a kind of that image of being openness and transparent, market more, but this is not the case here. So we can call it different names. Okay, what I'm going to do, just to give you the big picture for the case study, I'm going to give you 3 examples for superficial transparency, discuss them, and then I'm going to give you another 3 examples for real transparency, how it should be applied from the lens of responsible innovation. I give some examples happening, discuss the role of each one in the healthcare system, and then coming to a conclusion. This is the structure for the case study, just to give you an idea how to write your report. I'm going to talk about the assessment after that. There are so many options for you to start writing this assessment, because there is a really good chance for you to improve compared to reflective piece 1 if you have a normal in reflective piece 1. Okay. So as I said, transparency and safety in healthcare measures failed to live up to its promise. And also leading countries facing questions, even countries that have been pioneers in healthcare, now they are facing many problems despite the efforts they are putting, because they don't have this kind of tool to know what to share and what not to share, and what is the proper and structured way to apply transparency. And also a problem now that we are facing, data overload. Generating a lot of information, a lot of data that is not needed even, waste of time, waste of resources, which contribute as a distraction, and that's where what we don't want in the healthcare system. It's not about, okay, so I like this. Just like the advertised burger, looks very, very nice, so big, full of layers, but here in reality how it looks. And the same applies to the superficial and real transparency that we have in our systems. They say we are transparent, we are applying all the measures, but this is how it looks in reality. That's why we end up having this, the statistics that I shared with you. Okay, I'll start with this first example, example 1 for what is not considered as true transparency. Between 2005 and 2009, the hospital trust was found to have neglected patient care, leading to unnecessary deaths of hundreds of patients. Public reporting, the trust was reporting data that suggested it was meeting key performance indicators, tick the box, such as wait times, infection rates. However, these reports were later found to be misleading. They are not sharing the correct information, not responsible. They are not accountable. And it's kind of a tick box approach, because they didn't share what is really happening in that organization. And do you think it's responsibility of the doctor or the nurse or the staff? Who? It's the responsibility of everyone who's working in the healthcare system. So let us look at the different rules and think about how they are contributing to the problem, solving, contributing. So, as I say, don't be confused. At the end of the lecture, I'll explain different ways to write reflective piece 2 based on the example that I give. Don't be confused. So it could be the public health. What's their problem? Maybe fail to detect and address the underlying issues. They didn't detect that these information are not correct. They didn't assess its accuracy. So they contributed to the problem in different ways. They accepted the reported data without checking the accuracy. Could be one of the problems. But it also could be other problem like policymakers. Because policymakers are setting the guidelines and metrics and performance metrics, so they didn't check to ensure that these metrics are really reflecting the patient, quality of patient care in that organization. But it also could be, hospital staff problem. So maybe because of the pressure they are facing, were not transparent with the patient. They gave wrong numbers to the reporter. They don't share the information. They keep it for themselves, or they contributed to the problem by not communicating the risk and the problems. They didn't consider the transparency dimension. And it could also be you, engineers, computer scientists, AI developers. It's simply because that code is not really considering to track, report key performance indicators. It's just reporting whatever is there, but it's not checking against the indicators that we have in each system. So they have contributed to the problem in a different way. And what I wanted to say here, it's kind of collective effort. It's not the responsibility of one in the healthcare systems. It's our responsibility. And that's in responsible innovation, we usually talk about teams and membership, leadership. That's what's really like one of the most important concepts in responsible innovation. Okay, the next example would be, many NHS trusts in the UK publish mortality rates of certain conditions or surgeries as part of their transparency efforts. Some trusts may report mortality rates without providing the context. So if you are giving me numbers, give me the context, why it happened. What they did, they only shared the numbers without sharing the context. What was the problem? Was it your mistake? Was it because of the patient couldn't survive, or what? And not providing context is also one of the problems for transparency. Throwing numbers to the people is not really helpful if you don't provide context. And while publishing mortality rates seems transparent, the lack of context and obscure the real performance of healthcare provider, this approach may be more kind of following the rules, ticking the box, but not really following what's needed to, not doing what's really needed to be done. Okay, so who's responsible in this case? Let us take the public health, it might be. Didn't ensure, so the public health is kind of responsible to ensure that the mortality data is really to report each case, what was the reason, because of what, why and what. It's always good to learn more. And because when you understand better, when you have the bigger image, you can decide better. Oh, I'm not going to that hospital. They have a problem here, and then that's kind of having more power. And they are contributing their problem because they are not providing any context. Throwing numbers wouldn't be helpful in this case. Policymakers also. So if they are putting the rules to publish these mortality rates, they should be strict in publishing more information, why and what, why this is happening. They're contributing to the problem by not checking or that's meeting the transparency requirements. And also, hospital staff. They are not really, they are the responsible ones to provide context. So they are the expert. This doctor maybe will have more information why we have this mortality rate. I can explain that. Here are the reports. Here are the numbers, explanations, more context, better to understand. And they might be contributing to the problem by just providing numbers, which is not helpful, as I said. AI experts and developers. So don't say that I'm an engineer, I'm a computer scientist, it has nothing to do with me. No, we are contributing to the problem. It's happening everywhere. You're a developer, developing programs, engineers are building prototypes, working prototypes. You are contributing to every single field. So it might be they have generate and publish mortality rates without adding more sections to context. It's always our responsibility. Okay, the third example would be for not real transparency. I'll share that, sorry. Private hospitals in India price list for treatments. So in response to call for transparency, some private hospitals in India have started publishing price lists for common treatments on their website. But the price lists often exclude additional costs like diagnostic tests, specialist consultation, post-operative care, and that's a huge problem. You come to pay and you're like, wow, that's much more than I saw on your website, and then, oh, this is extra, we can't communicate this in the website, and that's one of the failures in our transparency system, communicating the prices with the patients. So whose responsibility is this? If we wanted to take the public health and think about if they are contributing to the problem, they have to enforce regulations requiring to provide more information to the patient about the pricing, but providing a general price list and not being checked by the public health is a problem. This is how they are contributing to the problem, and the policymakers did not create comprehensive guidelines. So they might have said you have to share the prices, but they have to be more specific, share more customized, share what are the extra prices, everything in the price list. And that's what was missing, and this is how they contributed to the problem, but not being specific in the guidelines. All right. Okay, hospital staff. This problem might not be directly related to the hospital staff because it has nothing to do with the hospital staff, but it's kind of lack of communication. The doctor might have said, I need to do ultrasound, and they have missed that, so they didn't give the price. Everyone has responsibility. Okay, I'm gonna leave that for you, okay. Okay, so of course, at the end of these examples, after discussing them, it's obvious that superficial transparency might cause patient harm based on the statistics that we provided in the previous slides. And also, a patient will lose trust. As you have seen in one of the numbers that I gave you, patients think, 70% of them think that hospitals are not transparent. That's how the patients started to lose trust. So, yes.
All the three examples that you gave, the last impact you say about AI experts, but they're not directly involved in this medical field.
So when we have a platform,
say that they are involved because the AI experts don't have the direct access to what is going on in the medical domain.
That's true.
They are just the person who is getting the data to publish it. So we can't directly tell them as responsible for this.
So the thing that some of the hospitals, they have their own system, right? Platform. They keep updating that form. And one of the engineers are computer scientists. And in this case, we have specific guidelines, what to share and what not to share, kind of general policies that we have to be aware about it. And in this case, if you are missing these kind of details, not kind of informing whoever is entering the data to enter this kind of information, it's missing this section. If it is stated clearly, you have to share customized prices, and they are missing that part, it's their responsibility. Or if you are not notifying the staff that this has to be added, otherwise it's not going to be submitted. It's an extra effort that needs to be done. Yes. Okay, transparency in healthcare, as you have seen from the last previous slide, it's not just a regulatory requirement. It's not just tick the box. It's not just pretending, but it's a fundamental principle that really contributes to sustainable innovation, and it's one of the most important dimensions of responsible innovation. So what it is? What does true transparency look like in practice? In health, like I'm talking about healthcare here. So same to what I did previously, I'm going to give 3 examples for true transparency, analyze them, and then we'll come to the end of the lecture. Okay. Denmark has a national database where all adverse events in hospital are reported and made available to the public. Everything is happening that's not running in a proper way. So this database is accessible online and includes detailed reports of each event. So compared to the previous example, they were sharing the mortality numbers, rates, without giving context. Why? But here, they are giving the numbers, but they are also sharing why and what. Why it happened, what was the reasons, and what was the problem. They are really communicating properly and applying transparency in the proper way. And also they are acknowledging errors, because nothing is perfect, and provides learning platforms. So we are learning from the mistakes, but at least we are sharing our errors and giving more context. Okay, I'm not going to share because, as I said, not everything is given directly, so I'm not going to share these slides. I'm going to leave it to you to decide it's whose responsibility. I'm going to go to example 2. I'll upload the slides today. Okay, Australia's My Health Record is a national digital health record system that gives patients full access to their medical history, which is great, including test results, medications, and doctor notes. Instead of printing thousands of papers, and if you are traveling to a different country, you really need access to your data, this is going to provide you with online access. Patients can view their health record anytime, anywhere, and share them with different healthcare providers. It's kind of like dealing with the data remotely. The system allows patients to control who can access their information, which is another layer of security and safety for the patient, giving them greater agency over their health data. And this is one of the examples that show what true transparency means in healthcare. Sorry, okay. I'm leaving these slides to you, going to example 3. Okay. The Open Notes initiative in the US gives patients access not only to their medical records, but the appointment notes written by their clinicians. And that was it's a success, because it's kind of sending reports and it's improving communication between the patients. And that was in 2010. Yeah. And now it started to be used by 19,000. Now it's been used by 6 million patients with unrestricted access to their medical records, which is another successful story for implementing and applying transparency in the healthcare system. Okay, so coming to a conclusion, transparency is not a task for individuals, but it's it requires collective efforts, and they are not isolated from being responsible. So it's the responsibility of everyone in the department, in any professional context, to be responsible and to apply them in the proper way. If you are a nurse or a computer scientist or an engineer, communicating the problem in your code is transparency. If you have used ChatGPT to generate a code, if you are saying that clearly, I have generated that code using ChatGPT and I've played with it, that's transparency. it makes no harm to be transparent in communicating the information that we need. Okay. So, transparency in practice, we have asked that question in the previous slide, but just to say more about it, it's all about having a consistent strategy and applying transparency in a very structured way in healthcare or in any professional context. Take the lead from innovative providers, learn from the successful stories, measure what matters to a patient, don't overshare. Oversharing is not transparency. Sharing the little thing, that, like not sharing the big idea, is not transparency. And it's not about generating a lot of data, wasting resources and time. It's about look at what it means, what we need, the quality, not the quantity. And also provide personalized price transparency. We talk about that in the third example for the hospital that was sharing generalized prices, but making the patient surprised when they need to pay at the end. A give and take approach to safeguarding patient data, that's giving extra layer for the patient to control who's ever accessing his information, and that's really an improvement. Okay, you always have to give the context. So transparency, as I said, is not only sharing, throwing numbers, information, give context, always answer the question, what happened, why it happened, and how it's gonna affect me. And in this case, after that, as a patient or as one affected in the healthcare system, I will have better chances to decide better. So, true transparency means meaningful and actionable information, and it goes beyond just sharing information. It's more about making sure that that the information is accessible, important, understandable, actionable for the patient to use in order to help them to take better decisions. That's all about the lecture. I'm going to talk about the reflective piece too now. So, as you have seen, I have given 3 examples for each case for superficial transparency, true transparency. So, in reflective piece 2, it's up to you if you want to discuss 3 examples and how they have not really applied the concept of responsive innovation or the transparency in the way they applied it, and take the 3 examples from true transparency, or analyze it in different way and take 1 example from superficial transparency, 1 example from true transparency. Which one would you prefer to have it consistent? Which one? I want to hear from you because you will be writing the assessment. Which is gonna be easier for you to have better analysis? So yes, take 1 example from each and then analyze each one, or kind of contrast and compare 3 examples from here, 3 examples from here. If it's not too much, I'm up to discussion. So yeah. What do you think? Any thoughts?
I think 1 example for each will be easier, especially seeing as we only have 600 plus to work with.
Yeah. That makes sense because we have the word limit. And it's always comparing and contrasting would take pages and pages, I know. Okay. So going back to the comment that you have said I'm not sure his name. So yes, going back to your comment when you say that doctors and scientists, they know better than the patient. But this is the mentality that we have as, like I'm an engineer. Previously I had the same mentality. Like, we are engineers, why do I have to communicate the way I'm working in my design? Because I know better, but it's not that. In the healthcare, you need to share the information in a very, as I said, understandable way. The patient can understand the information, simplify, because he needs to take a decision, and you should communicate it. If you see, as a doctor, if you see that I have to do this surgery, you can't go forward or do that surgery without simplifying the concepts to the patient, make him understand what are the consequences to let him decide, because it's not about who's the expert here. I know this is common we are having this mentality, but it's not the case. We have to communicate, simplify, make them understand what is it about. I remember when I was working my master's, I developed wearable devices. And then I had to communicate with patients, pregnant ladies with preeclampsia. Actually, I was detecting they would have preeclampsia. So I had to take numbers, but I couldn't, because the problem is that as an engineer, I think I know better. This build is safe, but they don't know. And when I was talking to them, can I attach that build to you, go and sleep, and then the next day when you come, I'm just gonna take it, record the data, and that's it. And because they don't know, they didn't accept. But I learned to simplify the language, make them understand this is a wearable device. It's gonna record the baby's, your ECG, your heart signal, and that's it. There's no harm for you and the baby. Once you explain to them, they will accept, and that's how you can make more accessible and meaningful data. Different contexts, different examples, but this is the lecture for today. We didn't take any break, so we finished earlier. I'm gonna take your questions for reflective piece 1 and 2, both of them, because I really have received so many emails, so I'll open the floor for questions. Okay? And the drop-in session is starting in, if you can, 10 minutes. Thank you. So, do you want to use, sorry.
I do want to.
That's all. Okay. Do you want to use, if you can give them. Do you have any questions?
So we're gonna submit this same assignment due on the 22nd of September, but you got 1 month to prepare it. But this is the best time to ask questions if you have anything that you don't know of. Now, another thing is I like to share my own experience as a patient. So I'm not a doctor or a nurse. I'm not an expert in medical practice, but I'm an expert at being a patient because I just got a 2-month stay in the hospital.
This is a real story because he was tutoring professional practice for 4 semesters, but it happened with them, so it might be a case study as well. Yeah.
So if you have any questions on how the real world, say Canberra Hospital, having transparency in their process, you can also ask me as an expert in patient. When I say expert in patient, what I mean is during my 2-month stay in the hospital, there's some medical students come and then the supervisors are very confident in me to teach the medical student how to perform because I'm so expert at being a patient. I learned all the skills as how the medical participant will examine me as a patient for my cognitive skills and stuff that I may have issue with. So during my stay, there's 3 medical students in neurology, and I teach them how to do medical examination because it's so repetitive to me. I did every day. The doctor comes and the nurse comes say, "Oh, how are you today? Can we do this assessment with you?" So when the student came, I was like, "Oh, let's do this. No, this is how you do it." So I'm very expert in how to be a patient. And then everything I was think of during my stay in the hospital is, how does medical equipment relate to the technologies relate to the transparency or the responsibility innovation in the hospital, So I have considered a lot of these questions because this is what we talk about in the course during my stay in the hospital. So if you want to know anything, I'm happy to share with you. This is a very rare chance. You don't every day have a teacher that can talk about the experience of being a patient because they might not survive the experience. So yes, please ask questions as much as you can before end of today's class. Thank you.
Any questions? Anything related to reflective piece 1 because the due date is today. I want to make sure everyone is like submitting, contact me, please, as soon as possible if you have any problem, because we are not extending the deadline. Okay. Yes.
I have a problem regarding the word count.
The word count.
Yeah, does the references contain the word limit?
No, it's excluded from the references, as I said, and I think I have sent an announcement to clarify that. Sorry for not being so specific in the course guideline, but I'm going to add these details to the course guide, the word limit, excluding references, all these information. Yes.
I have written leadership and membership reflection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just. Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, if you can. Okay, I can repeat your question. Yeah.
I can speak loud.
Yeah.
I have written leadership and membership reflection in my reflective piece 1. So as you were saying, we'll not be getting marked based on this. So will this not be considered in the marking?
So as I said, it was really because I have been notified during the weekend, and I've received many requests for them. They didn't see this component in the case study. So I said, just to be fair with the students, for this assessment, I'm not going to consider it in the marking, but it is considered in reflective piece 2. But the good part, as long as you have written that one, the tutors will be looking at this section and let you know some feedback about this component, so you can improve in reflective piece 2, which is good. As long as you have tried to write about it, then it's a good chance to be better in reflective piece 2. So it's not wasted. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Well, in my reflective essay, I don't mention any aspect about the environment of the 3E, one of the element of the 3E. I just write my experience based on my previous story about the rebound effect. So is that acceptable, or like my story have to have all the components that mentioned in the case study?
So for reflective piece 1, there is one section that's sustainability analysis and another one personal insights. And in that analysis section is where you mention some of the interesting points in the case study. So you shouldn't mention everything, but you should analyze the problem you are discussing in very detailed way and discuss the alternative pathways, what could they have done better, how to improve, how that changed your experience about what it means to be responsible, and if you had to do it in different way, what would you have changed? That's just reflection, but it shouldn't be kind of having all the components in the case study. Yes, as long as you have discussing it in details. Yes.
Yeah, so mostly the similarity that I'm getting right now for.
I can repeat the question. Yeah.
Yeah, so the getting right now for my report is because of the references. Mostly it is because of the references.
Exclude the references and then. So this is the same question about the similarity. So exclude the references and then repeat. Yeah. Any questions? Any more questions?
Submit it with the references? Or
Yes, submit with the references. Yes, that's fine. The tutors are aware about this problem, so they are aware. They will exclude the references once they check the similarity. Don't worry about it. Yeah. More questions? Do you have question? Yeah. Yes.
Do you have, in my reflective essay writing, I found that sustainability analysis is a high part that I could focus on. So in our essay marking, which part should we use most words to complete? Or is that some analysis thing, or to personal reflective
Are you asking
thing.
about the analysis, the structure of the analysis?
The overall structure.
The analysis section?
No, the overall, just because firstly, what's the word limit for reflective piece 2? Would that be still 600 to 700?
Yes, would be the same. Yes.
Yeah, I found that it will be a little bit challenging to keep within the word limit. So, which part? I wonder which part should we focus on in our reflective analysis so that we can simplify the other part to keep within the limit.
Yeah. That's a very good question. So if I have this word limit, it's very short. Why it is that short, and how can I analyze in details? So this is what we want you to learn, to write the details without giving unwanted information, be precise, to the point, and you can make that in 700 words without, in the most two important parts, and the analysis and reflection, personal insights, which is mainly reflection. So these two components or sections are having the more weight, which in the analysis you will be talking about not retailing, but you will just analyze the case study. Have you employed the practices properly? Was it really aligned with the guidelines with responsive innovation or not? And personal insights, how this have changed the way you think in the future about the technology when you are developing your own technology? What would you have changed, in alternative pathways, different things that you would change? So these are the two main parts, I would say. And the 700 is mainly to learn how to write in a very precise way, to the point, without unwanted information. We have it's very challenging, I know, but it's good to be, specific. Yeah.
So in transparency analysis, we will share our previous experiences and then analyze the transparency.
So transparency in this case study, because it's mainly talking about healthcare, and we have given some examples. So as you have suggested, you'll use one example, discuss it, and then another example from true transparency and discuss it. In the personal insight section, you might share and reflect on that. Okay, now I can perceive it in a different way based on what I have learned from this case study, the way it's changed my understanding to what it means to be transparent. That's the way how you reflect, in the personal insights, yes. More questions? I'm sorry that you had all of these doubts, but it's good always to learn, reflect on that, and improve the next assessment. And as long as the leadership component is not included, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone understand what we are discussing in the case studies. I don't want anyone to miss any of the components. That's why. But for reflective piece 2, please, that component will be considered. We will deduct mark based on that. More questions? Okay. Yes.
Should each of the paragraphs be equally big? Like, for example, is it possible to have an introduction of just 60 words and some sustainability analysis of 200 words? Is that fine, or you need 100 words each?
Okay, no, there is no specific limit for each. So first, I'll just start. Stick to the structure. Okay, this is the first thing. And then you don't need to include subheadings. It's fine because the tutors are aware that you are following the structure. So they know this is the second, the third. But his question was about, do I need to allocate 100 words for the first paragraph, second paragraph? No, it can't happen. So I know that it is very challenging. So retelling the story is not going to take more words than the analysis, so you will allocate more words to the analysis section, personal insights. So no, this is not required at all. It's up to you how to allocate the number of words. Yeah. Yes. I'm gonna come to you.
So my question is in the personal insight part. Can we reflect beyond the healthcare? Just focus on transparency itself?
Okay, I would say that would be because her question was about her experience in the healthcare, so that will kind of support the argument that she's presenting. But if it's not, it's like if something, like if it has nothing to do with the healthcare, it would be, I would say no. Better if you have experience from the healthcare, because I don't want to have something out of the context. But what she said, if I have personal experience from the healthcare, which is already aligning with the theme of the report. Yeah. So yeah, better in the healthcare. As Hassan's case studies was about AI, and then yeah. More questions? Any thoughts, any doubts, any concerns, any comments, feedback? Yes.
In the course guide, it said that we will get our mark in 1 week after we submit. Is the submit we will get mark? Does that mean we will get our mark on next Wednesday, or the deadline is after all the students submit, where it includes extension?
Okay. So, sorry. So that the submission of the marks, the post date will be 14 days from the day of submission. Not considering the extensions, okay? But we will do our best to provide all the marks before the census dates, because we know you need to take a decision. So we are aware of that. And one more thing, I wanted to remind you to fill the survey. So the survey, for some reason, is not on Wattle. We will communicate with, Professor Kim will communicate with CAIC Services and see how we can, because it has to be filled in week 4, and now we are week 4. And I realize it's not there, so we'll
keep it open a little bit later. It should be in there by the end of the day.
Could be week 4 to 5, right?
Yeah. We should be able to have it there by the end of the day, and we'll keep it open till the lecture next week.
Okay. Yes, amazing. So I'll send an announcement once the link is there to fill the survey. More questions, more concerns, more comments, feedback? Okay. So it's an open session now. If you want to ask any questions related to your assessments, you're welcome. Thank you. Yes. 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 So you have started with telling what's happened?
Yeah, introduction.
And then, okay. Is this analysis of that?
Yes.
Okay, and where is the report? You include good points. So we will give you feedback for that. And this is a good point. And where have you integrated your personal insights? Yes.
They are here, but I need maybe it's in your hard drive, but it's not retrieved. Yeah, I need about 5 days to run a program. I'm trying to from your member and what's happening.
It's just the guidelines and editing. Yes, amazing. Yes, this is the format. You can use any format. Yes, in APA. But this is what's the new structure. And have you supported it?
So do I have
This is the modern form of document. It's okay.
Okay, if you want to use ChatGPT to refine, just say at the end here, I have used ChatGPT to refine correct English grammar. That's all you need. You don't need any more than that. Yes, ChatGPT policy or clarification. Yeah.
Actually, I back out the plan, but
is it okay to just focus on sustainability other than sustainability of AI and sustainability?
So because the case study is about AI, we should discuss about AI. The lecture theme is sustainability, but the main thing we want from case study is to make you think about the real problem that we have in the real world, which is AI. It's a very controversial issue. This should be a
So, the personal insights in personality structure, we should talk about personality experience and focus on the AI and system
Yes.
theory.
And here we should talk about how this case study changed the way you perceive responsible innovation in the context of AI. I was thinking it's applied in a responsible way, but it's not. Here are the dimensions I see, and here are the alternative pathway that it can solve the problem. It's kind of trying to reflect what has changed in your way of thinking and understand to this from the case.
If my personal experience didn't have but I can learn.
Yes, learn from a case study then. So if you look at the person, it's not about your personal experience. So what she has there adds extra from her personal experience. But this section is not only about your personal, but learn from the case study and say to us how that has changed the way you perceive and think about solutions to. It's not about personal only, that's additional component.
Yes, so, well,
thank you.
You're welcome.
So, one thing is they use QR code to manage the data, so I was giving them well, for some very nice decision. And I was making you said that I was surprised how and the other sections was always been positive.
And once you see the feedback, you're able for the next, which is
training is always been
but I mean, do I need to remove and add more in the other
you
but
don't
because
need, as long as you have provided enough compliance, you don't need, I don't want you to spend more
Anyway,
time. I know that the submissions today.
Anyway, so what happened is that if you use wristband,
That's if you want to say technology.
and then go to QR
Look, we can,
It's a
that's all
very
we need
small
for.
QR code because it doesn't need to be a lot of information on
Thank
it.
you. Yes, good.
It's my name, date of birth, so it creates you can find the key if you know how to place. Basically, you can find key to find my file. What's interesting is we talk about the image of medical, like practice of nurse and stuff. So what's interesting is sometimes
it is not
the scanner
recommended to
scans
like
the QR code
add
itself.
like leadership and membership in the company with analysis and personalization. So it has to be separate paragraph.
Yes, just
So the
for,
machine's not
to
working.
make sure that
Machine
you're
fault.
consistent with the market.
Yeah. But if you had to scan the QR code itself. So what happened is they have to manually using the database such as our water names and your birth and
There
this
are
sort of stuff.
different rates.
And
We will
the
let you
thing
know
is
the rate
they
for each section, and
they
then
need to
you will
update
know how
all
much.
that into the system.
Like,
So
the breakdown
before
is
we
not
have
there,
the system,
but you will know where is the problem,
think about how
and then at least you will say, oh, the analysis is not quite good, this part is not good. They will point out the
data
section
management
using
system for
the names here, which is much easier for us
before
to.
that, I think
And it, will there be like some appealing process?
Of course. Anytime, if you're not happy with the mark, send me. I'm gonna mark it. I'm not gonna ask the people to mark it. I'm gonna mark it again from my side. I'll give you the time to come to my office, discuss it with me, and then if I'm happy, I'm happy to include the mark. But I have no problem with it. Of course, you have the right, yeah.
And then I would like to suggest something like when you make the change in the post guide and summary, can you like not those because it's like 3 times you have to change. Yeah.
Sure, I'll do that. That happened because the change is good sometimes. So that happened because we have changed some structure. Something is happening, changes with administration. I'm gonna let you know about that in week 6. So we had to do some changes, which was necessary based on Excel. It wasn't me.
I take on the 10K.
So changes are good sometimes. Yep.
Also, how we train the right thing. So one thing the
Okay, but have you, when you learn about, have you thinking there, or just mention whatever is mentioned? No, like I have mentioned the example, and then
even when I was sitting in the conference,
yes, we have to see because this is what I want to do.
that is actually necessary.
You are telling the story that
Because the engineer's mind and people actually look after patients.
I can see
well, it's different.
you need to add some two more sentences, just more,
That's
because
one
you
thing.
not
So, like, what raise of transparency we actually need affecting
I can see that.
the
Yeah,
reason
this is how
why
it
we're
is.
doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I think about
It's in
why,
the
how, what questions,
I would suggest
why we're doing this in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I have an experience, but I don't know how to give it to you because there's so much difference.
Okay.
So
And
you
how do
ask
you
me the
make
right
it
question.
yeah.
For me to
Okay.
answer you.
That's amazing. Yes, yes. Definitely. And also
So what did you
mention
learn
how
from
it
the
has
lecture?
changed your way of thinking and perception of responsibility. And it was yours.
Sorry, one by one, sorry.
Just some sentences. It wasn't
Yeah, sure. So that's why I just give an example. Sometimes, as I also talk about too much sharing,
because honestly, this section
so what's
and
true
previous one,
transparency
we have more
compared to
yeah, just add more to that.
well, yeah, just use
And another thing is, I didn't really use
myself.
ChatGPT, but
This is
I
how
have
much
written myself
that's
and
how
then
much
paraphrased it using Wishbot, paraphrasing to
Will
Do I need to?
Of course, no.
That's
No,
what I
no.
said.
For translation, for paraphrasing, you
What else do
need
you
to
learn
use
from
ChatGPT because it can generate it.
Yeah.
Other than that, if you generated that one, but just refining, it's not.
Okay.
Required. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's okay. No, that's good. Yeah, just think about the key message. Well, we still have much time to this paper. So what I do normally is I go back to the next call. But I like watching a movie or read a book a couple of times, so I know that every time I read it or watch it, there's always some extra information will come to my side. That's how I do it. So I guess yeah, but why? So this is my slide, and what I'm going to say to students.
Besides, you have more weight. You usually
I will share psychology about but I'll say, last week I did some cheat sheets for writing processes. So this is what we talk about. House, but today I'm not gonna do that. I'll say, yes, because I'm trying to take a look at the house. Or even it is also always good. So there's more insight about how to. And this is I was watching a lecture on neuroscience this morning, and one thing interesting in that is she said, well, we as scientists, we believe, but we accept different opinions. So we are proud of what we do, you're proud of what you do in your work.
No problem.
But there are people who have different opinions. That's what the reflective piece we're asking for your assumptions, your beliefs, to show that. But we accept other
Actually,
people's
maybe I
opinions.
counted this week because I work again.
Why is it?
So after we
I got another meeting.
Oh.
A little class representatives meeting. I hired another class representative.
Oh. Are you class representative here or?
No, another class.
Okay, good. Okay, you reminded me.
Hi, I want to know when we write our reflections, what can we use some sentence from the slides in the lecture?
Send the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Eco 360 is recorded and I'm gonna upload the PDF version of my slides today. So you will find it before 1 p.m. today for this slides right now.
So we can use some sentence from these slides and write it in the reference?
Yes, you can, but reference the lecture maybe, but also try to paraphrase.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Actually, I
Question?
I wonder if you could have a quick look on my structure.
Okay.
I was wondering if maybe my sustainability analysis was too long, and
Can I? Okay.
I'm just.
Yeah, sorry.
So I try my best to keep the each paragraph shorter, but
What's the word count?
I think it's 660. Should be fine without reference.
I don't have any
Yeah,
problem.
but I did not mention the in next time we will need to add another section, which is the.
One second, sorry. 1 second, sorry.
Yes, so the movie Matrix. Yes, so my
Sorry, yes.
computer scientist.
Yeah. So I have no problem with the analysis section because it should be the one along the one. Of course. Yes. And the personal insight, have you proposed how has the case study changed your mind? Just your perception, understanding.
Just some abstract vision.
You can add one sentence about, okay, the thing that I learned here changed my understanding to what it means to be sustainable innovation, or added something to my understanding. Just add 2 sentences about this, and it's going to be perfect in the personal insights. How?
So maybe my personal insights should be shorter.
No. It's good, but just add 1 sentence how that has changed the way you perceive responsible innovation from now. Like how you sustainability in AI, just 1 sentence. You before the image that you had before was different, and now how it's changed after the case study. You got my point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what has changed?
Yes.
I do mention my past experience.
Sure. Thank you.
I do mention my past experience, but that things may not change after case study because I keep.
Okay, that's fine.
Because likewise, if I keep the responsive innovation principles before, so nothing changed.
I would recommend to add that sentence. If it didn't change anything, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I would recommend to add that.
Yeah.
It just to improve here.
That's
and
fine
that would
that
be
if
more
I
than enough.
talk about, just broadly talk about each aspect of the sustainability and then add an example for each aspect, then it would be very long, yeah.
Okay. No, just maybe 1, 2 sentences.
Yeah.
How it has changed. No examples, no details.
Yeah.
Maybe that would help in supporting your personal insight section. But it looks to me very structured, so hopefully. And thanks for your efforts. I'm happy, you will see difference once you write reflective piece too, because the first one is always difficult.
So the first one will be more difficult.
Yes, of course.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the second one you will have an idea, and then you won't face all these problems. Like I know now, and then you will just kind of know the structure.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
But I think this website also used from other resource, and I certainly find the original word, but there's so many websites included, so I'm not sure which one.
Usually the first one will be this.
So I should.
Yes. The first one will be the one that's how behind much. And just reserve that. Thank you. Are you considering, please make sure to submit before 12. Thank you. Are you working hard? Work together?
Yeah. It just occurred to me that a lot of this assignments from different course were all due today, that's why. They're probably busy working on the code and other assignments.
Okay.